you're not a guy that uses planners or to-do lists much. You're more spontaneous. You listen to your intuition, and that's worked really well for you. But I know you'll always have a special place in your heart for vision boards. How did having a vision board change your life?
Did I tell you this? Or are you even stalking me? um, it's funny. I started making vision boards like 2 or 3 years ago, um, because I just thought it was like a cool way to visualize my future life. Um, I'd say if anything, it's like sounds like out of the ordinary, but it showed me how much I change over the year. Because every time I make a vision board or have some sort of yearly goals, and I get to December and I look at this, I'm like, I don't even want half of this stuff anymore, or half of these things that I put on the vision board. So usually I'll like complete half, and then the other half I'm like, why did I put that? It's really interesting. Like usually you would think it's like, oh, I completed my goals halfway through the year. I'm like not like that at all. I get to the end of the year, I'm like, I don't even want half of these things. So maybe I'm just like I change a lot over the course of a year, but it's interesting. How it works.
Was there a story about a New Year's Eve and a vision board that kind of changed the direction of your entire life? I'm thinking about a specific time.
All right, you do your research. Yeah, so I met my girlfriend. I met her in 2016, but when we rekindled in 2020, 2021, and on that New Year's, I was in Washington, D.C. for the Army National Guard I was doing the inauguration for the president. So I was in Washington, D.C., which also happened to be those January 6th riots. But we went out for New Year's Eve that night. We went to the bar, and I just like we got dinner, and then everybody wanted to go out to the bars after. I ended up coming home at like 9 p.m. So I had nothing to do for New Year's Eve. And Julia, who's in the other room, um, she was gonna go out with her friends or whatever, and we basically just like called each other. We were just friends at the time, bonding over business, and we were like, why don't we just like make vision boards? We both had $0. We were both broke, no business whatsoever, and I was in the midst of starting a drone photography agency, and she was in the middle of starting a home decor drop shipping store. So we were both so far off from where we are now. But we decided to make vision boards on New Year's Eve instead, and kind of be our new beginning, which turned out to be the catalyst of our business careers. And those vision boards, we actually did like manifestos. So the vision board was the first page, and then the other pages were our goals, the things we wanted, our life, family goals, like everything. It was like a 10-page thing. Um, but yeah, ever since that year, I've been making a vision board every year. And like I said, every year, half of it comes true, and the other half, I'm like, why did I put that?
Yeah, I could see that, but that's kind of part of the beauty of them, right? Is to like see that evolution and to figure out what you don't and want and what you don't want, what you want and don't want. Excuse me. So, your relationship with your girlfriend actually is pretty unique in that you're both very successful entrepreneurs and creators. What are some of the pros and cons of having a partner who's also really passionate about business? And is that something that you always wanted, or did it just kind of happen?
Yeah, I didn't know I needed it until I kind of made it through multiple relationships where I didn't have it. So I hadn't had it up. I started, getting into online business when I was 19, and I had went through a few relationships where they weren't really business oriented. They were kind of, I was into the business and the other person was just kind of into like normal goals and normal life. Um, and eventually I got to the point where I was like, I just need to do what I want to do, and I'll find someone. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And I quickly realized that it was exactly what I needed in terms of having someone who's doing the same things as you all day. You don't feel bad about working on your goals all day, or just like not wanting to go out and just wanting to sit in a coffee shop and work or something like that. Um, we even aligned on being digital nomads for 6 months when we moved to Bali, traveling, moving to random cities across the country. There's so many things that you want to do in your life, um, especially when you're single. It's like you want that like freedom, right, to do whatever you want. I wanted that freedom, but I wanted to have someone else to do it. So it's kind of invaluable to have someone to do all of the things I want to do with me and support the dreams that I had, and the ambition. And it's risky, right? It's like no 9 to 5, no 401k, no 5 year plan. Like we both had no idea what we wanted to do. We just knew we wanted to do it. So having that support system to kind of back you up and be there when you're down is really really helpful.
There's a few things there. It's like the lifestyle for sure, like being able to travel, all that stuff that you say that someone that, a lot of people say they want to travel, but then it's like, are you really willing to like move to Bali for 6 months and do the damn thing? So finding someone
Right.
that's compatible in that sense, that's awesome. And then also like this idea of like understanding what it's like day to day to be a creator. A lot of us that are deep into the X game or the creation game, what bonds us is that we're not normal, let's say. Like we don't have the same understanding of the way that things work as other people. We look at it differently. And so again, to have somebody that like matches you with that, that's really cool. And with X in particular, I want to take you back, probably before you were thinking about relationships, or maybe not. You're about 14 years old. You sign up for Twitter. This is April 21st, 2012. I'm going to read you your first 5 tweets. Okay.
Oh hell no.
8:53 p.m. My first tweet, exclamation point. 9:01 p.m. You post a bathroom selfie. 9:21 p.m. I'm craving chewy chocolate chip cookies so bad, dot, dot, dot. 11:11 p.m. I was making cookies. Then I decided to eat the cookie dough, hashtag YOLO. And then 11:57 p.m. I'm out of cookie dough, sad face, hashtag FML. So you've obviously grown up a lot since then, personally and through your content. And so has Twitter. And so my question is, what are your favorite things about the platform formerly known as the Bird app?
Oh, my ribs hurt. I think I just broke a rib. First of all, I guess one thing that hasn't changed is I've had like 8 chocolate chip cookies last night, so that has not changed.
Amazing.
Oh, fuck me. Yeah, I think what changed is that like back then it was just such a for what the way I treated it from 2011 to 2015 was just like, or even 2016 was literally just our high school. It was like a high school forum. I remember there used to be those apps where it was like the whole high school could talk or something like that. That's what we treated as like I came from a small town and my graduating class was like 200. Everyone in the high school had Twitter, so we would use that, and it was like we're all the cool kids, and like you would tweet everything all day throughout classes, and it was kind of how we were using it to stay up to date with each other, almost like an early day Facebook, how they used it for Harvard. We were using Twitter for high school that way. And yeah, I mean, one thing is the hashtags. Like hashtags are dead now. You don't you get penalized for using hashtags now? It's like in the
I think if
algorithm.
you use more than one in a tweet, you get a little ding. Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy because back then it was kind of just like an exclamation point. It was like a punctuation mark. But yeah, back then it was very much just like a keep up with each other, almost like a Facebook. And then from 2016 or 2016 up until about 2020, I used it for soccer, football, Arsenal, and I was like part of football Twitter, which is still a huge thing. And that was just all sports, and I did basketball and football too, and American football too. But I used it all for sports, and then 2020 to 2020 ish, 2022 ish, 2021 was all crypto and NFT Twitter, which was my progression. And then 2022 to now is money Twitter. So I kind of been in all the evolutions, and I just saw a tweet from Dakota. Was it yesterday? And he was just like, graduating, or the class of 2020 is still undefeated. I'm like, bro, I'm class of 2011. Been around the block.
Yeah, the money Twitter, I think is what he's talking about, that freshman class. Like it was like that COVID
Right.
time. I think like Dan and Dickie and Dakota and all those guys and probably JK and yeah, that was, but yeah, there was a whole era before that. I actually had to go back and clean out my entire Twitter feed. I'm surprised you didn't, because I found some.
Oh, I have, but not for that stuff.
Not all the way, man. I had all these just like angry Mets rants and stuff like that. Sports, same as you. But now Twitter's obviously opened up a lot of professional doors for you. You've never had a 9 to 5 job. Your first job was at a diner, buttering toast and cutting steak and cheeses. And you were in the military and you went to college for a bit. And by the time you were out of school, you were already full time on your business. And what do you think are some of the reasons you were attracted to entrepreneurship? And why do you think that you've been so successful at such a young age?
I've always had a bit of ADHD, not in like the cliche sense where like, everyone says they have it, like to the point where all my closest friends know like I can't even have an iced coffee because I'll drink it in 60 seconds. I can't play video games that don't have ranked play because I get bored that there's no progression. Um, and I'm known I know myself for jumping from business to business for a very long time, and it took me a long time to kind of break that habit. That being said, when I was introduced to day trading, which was my kind of entry into this, and I had watched Shark Tank growing up with my dad a lot, which was my real entry to business. But when I got introduced to day trading while I was in military training, it kind of showed me how fast you could make money and that you could make money from a cell phone. So back then, if you go to my old, they're probably archived, but I used to always post laptop lifestyle, work from anywhere. I was so obsessed with the idea that I could work from anywhere at any time without being told what to do. Um, it was just so appealing to me. It's kind of like that fast life. It used to be really trending. Everyone used to call it jet life. So I used to really be obsessed with this like jet life mentality, and it stuck with me. It's almost like once you drink the Kool-Aid, right? You can never unsee it. You can never unsee the lifestyle that's possible. So as soon as I found out what was possible, I could not even think about what I was doing before, which was going to be accounting. I couldn't even think about it anymore. So I feel like I drank the Kool-Aid, and then once I found out what was possible, I was just obsessed with the idea of freedom. And freedom is more so just doing what you want, when you want, from wherever you want.
Yeah, there's things that you just like you say, you see them and you can't unsee them. I've talked about this on the podcast a million times and on my spaces and stuff, but for me, not from a business standpoint, from personal, it was when I read The Power of Now, and it was this idea that like you're not your thoughts, and then I could never go back to like living in a complete cloud. And I think that sounds like what it was like with you from a business sense. It was just like I see this other way, and it's like how could I ever just do the generic thing when I know you can just print money from your phone and your laptop? And you've been able to spin up this incredibly successful marketing agency. You do ghostwriting for info product companies. And we were talking at lunch the other day, and you told me that you max out your clients at around 7 to 9. That's where you found kind of the sweet spot for you. You've gone higher up to 12 or more and found that it doesn't really work. So I have a two-part question. First, how can people scale from having maybe just 1 or 2 clients up to that 7 to 9 range? And then why did you decide to cap it right there?
I think the biggest bottleneck with, and maybe you could say this for any business, but specifically with my kind of agency, is it's talent. I got very fortunate that I found two very good writers for my team. And I think the reason I'm capping for a significant amount of time, or I've been capped for a significant amount of time, is I'm really trying to figure out the right way to source, hire, train uh, these talented individuals, because I think our ability to find good talent is what's going to allow us to scale the amount of clients we have. And it's very difficult, and I think it's like a learning curve. There's really, I mean, how many courses are out there on hiring and training? Zero. Like, so I think that's been a big bottleneck. And I think for people who are at, the average ghostwriter, and when I was doing everything myself, I think when I got to like 4 or 5 clients, I was losing my mind. It's like all I was doing every day was waking up, writing for my clients, writing for myself, and then taking sales calls, taking client calls all day, every day, like at 4 to 5 clients. So that could happen before. And I think nowadays, even with the kind of quality of content required, I think it's even lower. I think you could get capped at 2 or 3, kind of what you said. Um, but I think it's talent, and I think if you're at 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 clients, the biggest thing you can do is record everything you're doing and create really in-depth processes, and not just what you're doing, but how you're thinking about it. This is something that I learned from my mentors. You have to record and jot down how you're thinking about something or why you decided to do something a certain way. why did I decide to write this hook? Why did I decide to put this word here and this word here and this punctuation mark and this space? If you can answer those why questions and those nuances, it's much easier to apply those to another individual. And another thing is fear. It's like when you're at 2 to 3 clients and you just have a fear that no one can do what you're doing. But the reality is you're never the best. There's always going to be someone out there that can do what you're doing just as good, if not better. So again, it comes down to being an effective hirer and an effective trainer.
Okay, so let's go into that a little bit deeper because you say, you're looking to hire more. Right now, your company, the Birdhouse, you make a lot of money, but you have a very small team. Can you go a little deeper and break that down? Like, share more about how your business is structured from an employee standpoint, like who's responsible for what, and then what are some of the optimizations that you've made to keep things flowing smoothly?
So I'll start with the structure. So we have me. I'm kind of CEO. The hats that I wear are really CEO, head of sales, and chief editor. So I kind of wear 3 hats. The CEO hat is obviously all the decision making and in charge of the team. Um, the head of sales is I do all the sales myself. I source all the sales. I handle all the inbound leads, everything like that. I also manage our client sales teams. Um, and then on top of that is the chief editor. So no content goes out without me seeing it. In a perfect world, I'd say some of our more mature clients who've been around for 10 months plus, the writers who are assigned to those clients can typically operate in a kind of solo manner. But newer clients is usually when I'm heavily editing and paying attention, or if a client is lacking results for a month, I'm really going to get in there and edit and try to see what I can do to improve the results. So those are the 3 hats I'm wearing. Them below me would be I have 2 copywriters on my team, Joey and Alex, amazing people, and then my executive assistant slash head of ops is um, my assistant, and her name's Sonia. So it's really just a team of 4 right now, and I'm looking to bring on a couple more people in 2024. But that's how we've been structured for a while. And the reason we've been able to keep that team so small is that we have operations and automations that are really effective. We have a full SOP library. We've got automations for onboarding, automations for reporting, automations for team meetings, all of the above. So those are all really important. And it's allowed us to kind of keep it a lean team and maximize revenue. But I think at a certain point, you always get to a certain ceiling for revenue, regardless.
When you start creating all those materials to help them understand the day to day and what you're expecting, is that something that you create? Like, is that an ongoing thing? Do you create them before you hire? Is it when you hire? Is it as they go? You're kind of continually tweaking them. Like, at what point do you start creating that infrastructure for the operations of the company to help everybody be on the same page?
Yeah, so I guess it's different for everybody. I'd say it's more of a revenue number than for us. Is after 6 to 9 months is when I really started looking into like SOPs and trainings. But I think once you have your first team members, when you can start to do it because you have to anticipate bringing on others. Like for me, I was creating a job description this morning for a new role, and it just came down to the fact that it was a need basis. Like I need to hire this person, so I need to create roles and responsibilities. And what that prompted me to do was to go and revise all of the roles and responsibilities of every position. um, in a perfect world, you do it quarterly, is what I've learned from mentors, is doing quarterly audits of SOPs, quarterly audits of roles and responsibilities, time audits, all of that stuff, performance reviews. But I'd say for me in first year of business, or for anyone, it's really scrappy. It's just like you do it when it's a need basis. But now that I'm more of a seasoned business and I'm trying to kind of get into a more structured thing, it's trying to do it quarterly.
Got it. Okay. So you guys are producing a ton of written content for your clients. And what's unique about what you're doing is that you highly optimize for sales, not as much for engagement. So I have another two-part question. One is like, how do you do that? Like, what steps do you take to optimize your writing for sales? And then how do you balance that with good engagement? Because you do need to get some exposure onto the posts, right?
Yeah, you definitely have to balance it, because you need engagement to produce leads and you need followers to produce authority. So I'd say, the biggest thing is if you treat it, it sounds cliche because I've said it so many times in the past week to myself. It's really spreading the content across the different pillars, like the personal content, trending content, opinionated content, social proof, case studies, video. When you spread it across a spectrum of all the different features that X has to offer, and this is why I love X, and the different styles of content, it brings in the different parts the of the puzzle. So if you put out a piece of personal content, it's going to create some loyal followers. If you put out opinionated content, it's going to get you a ton of engagement. If you put out, or with trending, if you put out some social proof content, it's going to nurture and convert that. Expertise, same deal, right? So each pillar kind of has a different reason. So I think spreading out the types of content does all of those things. And if you're putting out enough content per week, like for us, if we're putting out 30 pieces of content and there's 5 pillars, I can put 6 of each. So now I can get 1/6 of that week can be for lead gen, 1/6 can be for sales, 1/6 can be for followers, 1/6 can be for engagement. Obviously, it's not that perfect, but that's kind of the mindset that we have. Is if we spread out the content for the different concepts, it allows us to balance it.
Interesting. So are there certain like tactical things that you're doing for sales, or are you just kind of leaning into one of those or two of those different pillars that are more optimized for that?
I'd say, I think our sales process is shaped out to a point where it can take advantage of any of those. It's not really tactical. It's like our goal is to just maximize everything to the best of our ability. Like if we get a ton of followers and like if we go out in 2 weeks and gain 1,000 followers and a ton of engagement, but we're not getting any sales, we're just going to tone it back. And like, how can we get sales? All right, we're going to go all in on case studies now that we got all those followers. Like it's not really super practical. It's like we're going to go in with a balanced approach and then make adjustments from there based on the individual. Like it's not really copy paste, which is also part of the problem with scalability. Is like there's so much nuance for every client. It's like you really have to create kind of these autonomous positions, these autonomous thinkers in your team because they have to make adjustments on the fly as well. So that's also part of the problem with scalability.
It's interesting. Kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning is that you're way more like intuition based. And so in the way you approach business, and like a company in a lot of ways is just kind of an expression of the founder or the CEO, and like just a scalability of his own or her own philosophies and the way that they attack business. So for you to, I like that approach a lot for you, where it's less like, hey, here's exactly how we're going to do it for people. And it's like, let's just go in, throw a bunch against the wall, and then we manipulate and adjust, especially probably like on a client by client basis. But I want to go a little bit to like a personal branding standpoint. I heard you say that if you're trying to get clients on social media, building in public and documenting your journey is stupid. Can you unpack that idea a bit? Because building in public is something that gets talked a lot about these days.
Yeah, I think building in public is kind of almost like your default settings. It's like when you unpack a new video game and you turn it on and it gives you all these default settings. For my COD guys, like force sensitivity, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of just like your default settings. When you get on social media, the first thing you're gonna do is document your journey. Like, okay. But it's not optimized for anything in any direction, right? It's not the best for growth. It's not the best for clients. It's not the best for networking. It's just like document your journey. It's like default settings when you absolutely have no experience and nothing to talk about. But in terms of optimizing for clients, it's like you need to have authority. And there's no authority in documenting your journey because nobody's documenting their journey verbatim to try to get clients. I think it's like, yeah, if you follow the content pillars of personal storytelling, you're essentially documenting your journey, right? But when I say that, it's like there's people out there who's like their bio literally says documenting my journey. So I'm like, that's great, but if you want clients, it's not great. Like if someone goes to my bio and it says documenting my journey to a 50K a month agency, like how it's like so talk about a boner killer for like CEOs, right? Like someone like a millionaire 7 or 8 figure or 9 figure founder comes to me and says documenting my journey to 10K a month. Like why would they pay me? You just instantly outed yourself as a beginner, right? So same with even SaaS, like documenting my journey to 3K, 5K MRR. And I know that I've seen so many of them. It's like, why would I use your software? I know you have no support. I know you're a one-man army. I know I'm just going to be your test dummy. Like, you know what I mean? It's not charity out here. So, I don't think it's a good idea. And it's like, it's almost in the spirit of fake it till you make it. Like, you need authority from day one. So, like, for me, my bio when I started was building 7-figure personal brands. It's the truth. I was building 7-figure personal brands. Had I built one? No. Was I building them? Yeah. So like I kind of weaseled my way into authority, right? So yeah, don't do that.
There's a couple things. It's like there's documenting your journey on the timeline, and then there's what you mentioned, which is like the super cringe version of that, which is announcing that you're documenting your journey and like making that as like part of your bio and your brand. And listen, if you guys are listening to this and that's in your bio, like before this podcast is over, please remove that. It's so there's so many things wrong about it. It feels weird. It reads weird. It's cliche. It's awkward. And like Marco said, like you're kind of outing yourself. And that goes with the content itself too. Like those people that are like, just signed like my first client. And it's
Yeah.
like, what do you think that client's
Yeah.
thinking when they see you post that?
3K paid in full. Like, dude, no. It's funny because I actually had this in my bio in 2017 or something like that, or 2000. Yeah, 2015. It's because Gary Vee was making it popular back then. But back then, nobody was doing it. So it was like, cool, document your journey. Like, everybody's like, oh, he's documenting his journey. I'm going to follow on. But now it's like, it's overplayed. It's, the internet, social media has evolved, right? There's, millions of creators now. I know you do the roasting your profiles and stuff. Like, that would be the first thing I'd roast if I saw that.
100%. And I've done that literally. It's so cringy. Gary Vee was a huge inspiration for me around that time. I don't know, 2015, 16, 17. And I wasn't looking for clients. Actually, what was interesting for me was I started documenting my journey in like an audio podcast form where I would do like 5 to 30 minute weekly rants, essentially to myself. I would post them to iTunes and stuff, but I knew I had no listeners. I wasn't marketing it. I had like 5 or 10 people. What was cool about that is that all these years later, you listen to how I was speaking about my mindset about one day my grandkids will hear this. One day I'll have an audience that will listen to this. And I took those episodes and I started playing them in spaces with like some of my community and just streaming them through. And it was so meta. So there's actually something really cool about that. But again, your caveat was like, if you're looking for clients, don't do that. If you're just trying to like put yourself out there and build a personal brand, sure, I guess, right? Because it just helps people get to know you a little better. But yeah, definitely be careful if you're trying to build a business on social and you're sharing a little bit too much about how much of a beginner you are. That can be dangerous. With your like personal outlook, a little bit broader with regards to money, I know you've always had this like abundance mindset for money ever since you were a kid. And something that I struggle with that I think is one of your biggest strengths is that you're able to spend money super easily, knowing that it'll come back to you tenfold, right? How can people cultivate that mindset on their own? And how important has that been to your financial success?
Yeah, I think it's been everything to my financial success. Like, I think part of the reason is that I don't spend money on like dumb shit. I don't buy designer. I don't buy watches. I don't buy anything crazy. I don't buy cool cars. So the only thing I spend abundantly on is experiences, travel, and business. So when it comes to those three things, I'm all in. It's the only thing I spend money on. So I think from day one, I just always was like, I need to risk it for the biscuit. Like, I need to create my own luck. This has been like one of my mottos for a long time, is create your own luck. It's like, I can't, if I don't take any shots, I'm not gonna score any points. So my philosophy has always been is I got to take as many shots as I know. I'm not Elon Musk level genius. I know I'm not even the hardest worker. So if I'm not the best at any of those things, then I can just take enough shots to score a lot of points. Like, business is an infinite game. You don't have to score all your points in one game, or you don't have to succeed in every business. You only have to score once, right? So if you just take a ton of shots, you will make one, right? So that was always my philosophy. And I treated that, I've done it so many times, had like 15 businesses. And then when I even got into crypto and stuff, like, which was one of my first big wins, is like I remember making like 50 grand one day, and I just reinvested like 40. Like, how many people would do that? Nobody. They would like withdraw 40 and then reinvest 10. No, I took 50 and reinvested like 48. It was crazy. So I think that's been a huge part of my success, which is, and I also just bought every course. Like, I'm so abundant with buying courses and stuff just to try and learn one thing. So I think it's helped and compound enough knowledge to the point where I kind of got to a point where it's like I can't even physically fail. Like, you just have so much.
That last point you made about courses, I want you to talk a little bit about your networking strategy, how you try to get close to people that are influential that you admire. Can you expand a little bit about how you do that with regards to courses?
Yeah, especially when, I didn't really have anything to offer. You don't, they always say the number one networking tip was always, and this has always been the same advice, and it still is the same advice, but it's like you have to provide value. But at a certain level, when you're at level 0, you're more annoying trying to provide value than anything. Like, if somebody DMs me, it's like, I want to give you, free videos. Most of the time, I'm just like, that's more work for me than it's worth. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even want your free videos because I have to give you my attention. So at that point, it's like, now what? If you can't even give someone something for free, which is like 0, how can you give value to someone if they won't even take it for free? So you have to go lower, which is negative. So you have to give them money. So I was like, okay, I have literally negative to offer. So I'm going to buy their stuff. And I've done this multiple times, buying people's courses. And of course, they're appreciative of it. And I get something out of it. So like, I get the value of the course and the value of access to them. And then the second stud of that is that not only do you buy someone's course or community or something, you actually do the work when you get it and kind of become their star student. And naturally, when you become someone's star student, they want to show you off. They want to show you off. They want to make you their testimonial. They want to make you their case study. They want to bring you on their YouTube channel, and you get free exposure. So that was kind of my philosophy after years of failing. I used to buy courses, not talk to the founder, not talk to anybody in the course, not do the work, and then just move on to the next course. That's how I treated it for about 3 years. And then that's when it kind of clicked with me. It's like, I could buy the course and network with this person and maybe be their friend if I get along with them. And it kind of worked out. So I just kept doing it. And I kept being people's star students. And you make money, you make relationships, and you get the value back. So it's kind of like a networking hack.
Yeah, and you've particularly done that with JK Molina, and you've become kind of a lot of what you were saying there, I think, is you were explaining your experience with him and his community. Can you talk about some of the specific things you did? Like, I know he would have like Zoom calls, and you were just like, hey, I know that he needs engagement, so let me be asking questions. Like, there are tactical things that you did to really like bring value to him, right?
Yeah, well, I'll talk both examples. Like, it's funny because my two, if not, yeah, my two basically closest friends in business right now are my friend Don Vo and my friend JK Molina. But both, I did the exact same thing for both. So for JK, right, I bought his course, or his community. At the time, it was like $50 a month. And not only did he need people to engage in the community to make it active, but like, you, everyone, I mean, not everyone, but like, yeah, pretty much everyone's been in a Zoom call, right, where no one's talking, or like the guy who's leading the Zoom is like, does anyone have any questions? And then no one has a question. It's so annoying. So I just wanted to be the guy who always had a question, because it's just familiarizing your face. And it also, they appreciate it. They're like, thank you for speaking, because you're making this an engaging conversation. And often once one person asks a question, other people ask a question. So I would show up to all the weekly webinars or Zoom calls or whatever you want to call them, and I would participate basically, and that's it. And, as a matter of fact, when you're the one who participates the most, you usually get the best results. You're actually active in the community, asking questions, being an active member. You usually get the best results as well because you're being accountable. So it was kind of a ripple effect, and everything just started piling on top of each other. And I started to actually succeed while I was doing that. So then it kind of worked out that way, and became his testimonial, blah, blah, blah. And then we ended up just becoming friends.
Yeah, now you guys have a podcast together and it's like a whole thing. And I experienced something similar with Alex Finn, where I got in his community for like $5 a month and just started going in his video chat every single day, talking to the community, bringing value, like having conversations with people, attending all of the weekly calls. And then eventually, we're doing all kinds of shows together or whatever it may be. And yeah, there's a ton of value in that. Find people that you respect. That's one thing about the creator economy, right? Is we have access to these people for very low amounts of money. If you think about anyone that you would admire in the business world, it's like you have no chance of getting in contact with Elon or Jeff Bezos or something like that. Obviously, that's an extreme. But like if there are some of these big shots on Twitter, for instance, you can spend a little bit of money, a couple $100 maybe, and or even less, and get into their like monthly subscription communities and start interacting, bringing value, and then all of a sudden they're putting you on. So to that note, I'm curious how you think about the future of X, everything Elon's doing to uh, create a financial application is really what it seems like he's gearing up towards, but they're going to be adding more video and just it's the everything app, quote unquote, is kind of the vision. Where do you see that going? And then further, like, what is the upside, in your opinion, of having influence and a personal brand in the digital world that we're going forward into?
Yeah, I'm obviously bullish on X, like an X agency. I'm probably one of the only X only agencies that are even out there. And I think part of that was first movers advantage, which is nice. I'm bullish on it because I love the idea of the everything app. When I was in Singapore, I remember being in an Uber and it had the QR code to pay for the Uber using WeChat. Imagine I could be in an Uber and I could pay with Twitter or X, right? I could just scan my X and pay, boom, done. Or I could pay with Bitcoin, boom, done. Or Doge, boom, done. That's where it kind of clicked with me. I was like, if I could do that, there's so much more you can do. You could pay in the DMs. You could have subscribers. You could have ad revenue. And they started adding those things. Now they've added live streaming and they're adding video ads. And there's so much that they're adding. It's truly becoming the everything app. And with payments, it's going to be a trading institution. There's going to be so many little things that are making it so big. And this is why it's growing so fast. So that being said, I think it's important to have influence on this app because if everyone's going to be flocking to this, like my bull case is that in 10 years, this is the biggest social media platform. And if that holds true, especially with the integration of Web3, if Web3 gets really popular and X gets really popular, there's a ton of integration there. You want to have eyeballs on the biggest app or on the biggest eyeball location. So for me, it's kind of like having digital real estate. So it's important to have a following, which is why I never discount the fact that we want to build followings and brands for our clients, because ultimately that's the long-term play. But we also want to do it in a cash flow positive way, which is why I focus on sales.
Yeah. So I think, this is why everyone's here, right? Is we're all here to kind of like build our brands up and that lead to business. But ultimately, if you have the brand, you can change the business, right? If you have the eyeballs and the attention and people care about you, then that's what gives you that freedom that you touched on earlier. It's something that I'm really focused on as well, as helping people with that. So Marcos, I'm super grateful you came on the show. I am a big fan of yours. I love what you're doing with every part of your business. I like, just how young you are. It's amazing to see kind of the quick progression you've gone through, the way you like latch on to trends and to just the nuances of how business works. You're not really attached to like one thing. You're just always experimenting, and you're so open with your knowledge as well. And I'm excited for you and your girlfriend as things go forward, because that's definitely something I'm looking forward to having, is something a similar dynamic to you. So I look up to you in a lot of ways, man, and I'm grateful that you came on the show. So I'd love for you to, if you can, if you have any words of encouragement for up and coming content creators, and just maybe something that's been on your mind that has helped you, and then where people can find you online to connect.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice, and this is kind of a new piece of advice that I have, is just don't be afraid to. It's funny. It's like, what is it? Chamath that said it. Get in the arena and try things. It's like, don't be afraid to experiment, and don't be afraid to go against the grain with the things that you're doing. I think a lot of the tactics that you're typically going to see are either going to be old or kind of ineffective. I think don't be afraid to do the dirty work. Don't be afraid to try to get on the Spaces floor. Don't be afraid to try to be the first one to reply to Elon Musk tweet. You got to get gritty and you got to get down and dirty if you want to kind of rise through the ranks. Like, you like buy the courses and become the star student. Get on the Twitter Space floor and say something crazy. Be the first one to reply on the big accounts. You got to do that dirty work, and I think that gets discounted a lot. for people growing on X. And where you can find me is it's Marcos Ruiz on all platforms and thebirdhouse.co.
Awesome. We'll have those linked in the description. Marcos, thank you, brother. I appreciate your time, and talk soon.
Cheers.